Hello and welcome to our office hours presentation. This is Paul Hoyt, your host. Our office hours are a relaxed informal mentoring program that we hold every Monday at noon Pacific time, unless of course there's holidays or other things that get in the way. All these recording slides and exercises are archived in our members area. All the recordings are available on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/Paul Hoyt. The reasons we do this is because we know that being a successful small business owner can be a great experience, but we also know that it's tough. You need a lot of support to be successful, and we want you to get to know us because when you do, you'll know that first and most importantly, we really do care about you. We want you to be successful in every area of your life, whatever that means to you. We want you to find the greatness, the happiness, the divinity within yourself, and then remember it, embrace it, and live it every single day. Our passion is helping entrepreneurs and small business owners get clear, stay focused, and grow faster. And the way that we do that is primarily by talking to them about the key performance areas of business and the necessity they have to be competent and hopefully excellent or very good in each one of the different areas of business. As it turns out, it's not good enough just to be good at helping your customers. It's not good enough just to be good at developing products. You do have to be good at leadership and marketing and sales and competent in financial management and operations in order to have a business that's profitable, sustainable, and scalable. We also do that by talking to our business owners about the importance of having a balanced approach across different levels of performance and different areas of growth. We oftentimes talk to them about how professional growth, business growth, and personal growth go hand in hand. And to be successful in any one of those areas means having the right mindset, having the right methods, and building up the right momentum. So with the Awaken CEO system and then the 7 key performance areas that we defined in my 2004 book, The Foundation Factor, that's primarily the way that we work with clients to help them develop and implement their growth strategies. And today's agenda is just live group coaching, so I gave a bit of an introduction already. Then we're going to go into open Q&A and coaching, which is going to be the bulk of the call. And we do have some special offers. So probably about halfway through in another 30 or 45 minutes, we'll talk about the special offers that we have going. And with that, I want to just open it up to questions and comments on any particular topic. I've got a few things that I want to talk about and a few other questions which have come in before. But this year, we're primarily going to do office hours with simply live group coaching. So whoever shows up, I want to help you with your business however we can. But I'm probably going to not do nearly as many presentations as I have done in the past. Right now there's 101 office hours presentations, each one a unique, 40-minute presentation or so that I've done over the last 3.5 years of office hours. We're starting to product those and package those into different collections and series. And I find that the effort that I've put into it, the work of doing the office hours, which is about 8 hours a week or so, I'm going to hold off on that for the next few weeks at least. So for the next few weeks, we're just going to be doing live group coaching. And hopefully that means that's really good for those of you who show up, because we really do want to talk to you about your challenges and your opportunities with the business. So, as with that in mind, for those of you who are on the call and live, go ahead and type something into your chat log or into the question log there. And I really want to talk to you, informally or chat. And, it's just us on the call so far. In fact, I'm really not even decided whether or not I'm going to record. I am recording it, but I may not even post these because I want to shift the presence to a little bit more informality and to an environment, into a protocol that doesn't require as near as much effort on my part to do these office hours every single week. So that's kind of an introduction. And I do have just a couple of questions that have come in throughout the last several days. And a lot of these are the ways that I have helped some of my existing clients, and the questions and the issues that we talked through, as I supported them over the course of the last week or so. So I'm going to talk about some of those and offer them as discussion topics, and encourage you to raise your hand, to type something in the chat log, and to offer your own feedback, your own, points of view, your own ideas when it comes to these different things as well. So let's start. I actually had a couple of different clients with, two different, dramatically different perspectives in their business. In the one case, I'm working with a client whose business is doubling every single year and has for the last 2 or 3 years. And another case, I've got a client whose business has really been reducing, had really been kind of in the dumper for the last year or two, and is wondering, when do we start over? When do we say that, this is not working out the way that we want it to? So let's take the tough one first, and then we'll go back to the one about the client whose business is doubling every year. I do occasionally get a client whose business just isn't working for them, or somebody who's not even a client and gives me a call and says, hey, this isn't working, and they ask the really tough question. How do I know when I'm only 3 feet from gold and when some more time and effort and persistence will pay off and the business will magically turn profitable and magically, start to scale up? Or when do I know, that it's time just to let it go and move on to the next opportunity? And that is a great paradox when it comes to business when you find yourself in a turnaround mode. There's 2 great adages out there. One of them says that winners never quit, quitters never win, and as long as you never give up, and as long as you keep trying, you are destined to be a winner. The other one says, no matter how far you've traveled down the wrong road, turn back. So how do you know when you're going down the wrong road and you should turn back, or whether or not if you just put a little more effort into it and give it a little more time, that this opportunity will really blossom for you? And that's a very tough question, and it really is dependent upon each situation. I have advised people that it is time to shut their doors, but I only do it after this. The number one most important thing is that you know for yourself that you have given it your very best shot. That, when things started to turn south, that you didn't turn around right away, that you stuck to it for a long time until you had exhausted your resources or until you had crossed that magic line that you set out for yourself that says, once I cross that line, then no more. Then I'm going to make a decision that's better for me personally. I'm going to make a decision that's better for my family, and I'm going to decide to go in a new direction. And if you find yourself having crossed that line, and frankly, many people say, once my first $10,000 is gone, or my $100,000 is gone, or all my savings is gone, then I'll know that it's time to quit. But then they reach that line, and then they go further, and then they go further, and then they go further, and until finally they've exhausted all of their resources. Once you have given it that really great effort, and once you have really done everything that you possibly can to make the business successful, except kill yourself or destroy your relationships, then it's okay to say, hey, this just didn't work out. The bottom line is that I'm guessing 70 or 80% of all businesses at least fail at some point in time. And it might be 2 months in, it might be 5 years in, it might be 30 years in. Now, if the company's been around for a long time, the way that they end up failing is by you typically, taking bankruptcy, and that's Chapter 11, not Chapter 13, or Chapter 7 rather. They take a reorganization kind of bankruptcy, and then they go for a while longer, and then they're eventually sold to somebody else. And we're looking at a lot of different examples for that. Kmart, Sears. Who else is looking at? Yahoo right now is in the process of kind of selling off their assets. So if you have a lot of assets, you've got a lot of options when it comes to prolonging the life of the company and continuing the product line and continuing the customer base, but usually through some sort of an acquisition. But when you're a very young company and you don't have any assets and you don't have something that you can sell to somebody else, typically your only option is just to shut the doors and move on. So, if you find yourself in a situation where you need to have a conversation like that, please give me a call, because I am not one of those people that says that, you should carry on regardless, primarily because what I've seen happen when people do that. I've seen people destroy their family relationships. I've seen people destroy their health. I've seen people get so far in debt that they had no option at all but to declare personal bankruptcy. I've even seen, heard of one or two people, not seen them, but heard of one or two people that got so far in the ditch that they decided the only way out was to end their life. And we certainly don't want you to get into those type of situations. So if you feel yourself that you're getting close and you really wonder whether or not you should carry on in a turnaround situation, give me a call and let's have a conversation. One of the most important things about that is to realize is to have faith, that, when one door closes, another one's going to open. That when you turn your mindset towards looking at other opportunities out there, that something will come through for you and you will be able to rise from the ashes, and that all is not lost, that you have gained an incredible experience from being in business for yourself or with other people, and that experience, that wisdom, that knowledge that you've gained will pay off in future ventures. So have a positive attitude towards yourself. Pat yourself on the back for having the courage to give it a shot. Realize that you have learned an incredible amount and probably paid dearly for that education, and you're willing and ready to move on. So if you have any other comments or other additions to that, I'd love to hear it from you for those who are on the call. But generally, that's the conversation I get into when people are having issues like that. On the flip side, I've got a client that's been doubling in revenues every year for the last 2 or 3 years. And it looks like here in 2017, we've got a plan in place for them to double in revenues again. That's a much happier conversation than the conversation with somebody whose business just isn't working very well. With this client, though, the question is, what do they expect? What kind of challenges do you expect when your revenues are growing like that? And the answer is that you should expect challenges in every single area of your business. Leadership challenges, marketing challenges, sales challenges, etc. Every system that you have will be tested, and most of those systems will need to be improved in some way, if not just scrapped altogether and a whole new system put into place. Because, generally speaking, I suggest that systems in a company can scale about 25% before something breaks, before some sort of bottleneck emerges in that system, and you have to rework the system in some way. So that means your way that you take orders, the way that you deliver your products and services to your clients, the way that you manage your employees, every single thing about your business will need to be at least improved, if not overhauled, in the course of that rapid expansion. It's just a fact of life. One of the most interesting things about that is the people, because some people really rise to the challenge and other people will not rise to the challenge. There's all kinds of stress in business. We talked about the stress of not having enough business, but there's also the stress of having too much work to do. And when you have that work to do, that it really causes you to work a lot more hours, causes you to work a lot harder when you're at the work itself, and can cause a lot of stress, and people respond to that stress in a lot of different ways. Some will rise to the challenge and will step up in ways that you never expected, and some people will self-destruct. They'll start to experience the stress in very uncomfortable ways, and they may not even know it or see it, but they'll start to do little self-destructive activities like not showing up on time, like not getting the emails out on time, like complaining about all kinds of other things. You'll be able to see from their actions and their attitudes that the stress of the additional workload is really causing them a lot of different issues. So, whenever your business is rapidly growing, you struggle in a different way than when the business is turning around or is failing in some way. It's only that middle ground, where you're just experiencing steady, comfortable growth. Your business is growing 5 or 10% per year, maybe 20% per year, maybe 25% per year, and that's a really comfortable approach to growth. When you get to be 50% or doubling each year or tripling each year, then you're going to have issues and challenges and struggles, just like the person whose business is turning around is having issues and challenges and struggles as well. So I invite you all who are on the call to, to chime in with your experience and your thoughts with regards to that, if you like. I don't see anybody typing into the window here, but if you want to make a comment, by all means, speak up, and we'll just take you off of mute, and you can make that comment. But hearing none and seeing nobody typing in right now, I'm going to talk about another question I got from somebody who was on the call just a few minutes ago, sent me an email, but they have withdrawn from the call here. I don't know if they had computer problems or just had to take off. But the question came in this morning. Paul, should I be talking about, when I talk to investors, should I be talking about the passion that I have and the reason why I'm in this business in the first place, or should I be talking about the value that I'm bringing to my clients? And my response to her was both. We want to know what the problem is that you are solving, how your solution is solving that problem, and the value that you're bringing to your customers and clients, because that tells us whether or not the business is viable. Is there a big market? Is there a significant problem? Do you have a unique selling proposition? Can you position yourself correctly against your competitors? Is there an opportunity for a business to come in and bring value to people and earn money in exchange for the value that we're bringing to other people? So definitely your investors, your business partners, potential employees, anybody that's got a business head is going to want to think about that. Can we bring this value in such a way that we can turn it into a profitable, sustainable, scalable business? And that's really important when anybody is considering investing time or money in your business. The other thing that's really important is we want to know whether or not you're going to stick with it, whether or not you have a burning desire to do this, and why is that, and how much you have invested in the business. Because we know that the number one determiner of success with small businesses is the ability to overcome obstacles, the resilience of the CEO, their ability to address the issues, face the challenges, make the decisions, and deal with those challenges on a day-by-day basis. If you don't have a strong passion for the business and for the people that you are serving, you're far more likely to withdraw when the going gets tough. So investors know that. Most people who have been around business owners know that, because they've seen people stick with it against all odds, and they've seen people withdraw when they had their first hiccup. When they bounced against their first pothole or speed bump, they just said, screw it. This is a lot more challenging than I thought that it was going to be. I don't need to do this stuff, and they just withdraw. So we want to know both. We want to know why you're doing it in the first place, and what is your passion towards doing this, and what you've got invested in it, what skin in the game that you have to know that you're going to stick with it, and you're going to rise to the challenges for as long as you possibly can. And we also want to know the value that you're bringing to the clients and customers out there, so that we know that there is an actual business associated with that. So I appreciated that question from my client this morning, and hopefully I've shared that with you as well. Let me bang on one other question that I have here, because this was an actual client issue that I worked with a customer on last week, and I'm still kind of working on them, and this may be relevant to you in some point in time. So here's hang on, I got a good question from Michael. Michael, thank you very much for answering. I'm going to take you off mute and invite you to ask that question for yourself, if you like.
Yeah, let me, what is your success rate working with business owners or companies, say in a startup phase, using your wisdom and experience and walking alongside them? What's your success rate? And we know that you shared that 70% of the businesses fail, startups or small businesses, and or the University of Tennessee have done a study that presented earlier on business strategy. So I'm just kind of curious, if you have some talent on board, such as yourself, what is the survival rate?
I like to think that the survival rate is better, but having a great senior advisor with you is not a magic wand. And I got to say that when I first started being a business consultant 15 years ago, I was a lot less humble than I am today. So today, when I first started out, I really thought that, man, if somebody hires me to come in and do their strategy and write their business plan and really work with them in the days of business, that they were almost guaranteed to be successful. That was a bit arrogant and a bit misguided and certainly inexperienced. Since then, I've come to realize about all the factors. That's why we created the Awakened CEO system, because we know that your mindset and your methods and your momentum are important. That's why I wrote the book, The Foundation Factor, because I recognize that, man, people can be really excellent in one or two things, but if they're not at least competent in every area of the business, they're going to suffer a lot of challenges. With my clients in particular, I think that the nominal success rate over a period of time is 50, 60%, maybe a little more than that. I would like to say that if you're in revenue, if your revenues are, $100,000 or more, especially if they're $250,000 or more per year, my experience in working with those clients is that I think I've only had like one out of I would say 50 or so clients that fit that profile, that their business didn't make it. They were in turnaround mode when I got a hold of them, or when they hired me. They hired me to do financial analysis and try to figure out how to turn the business around. And we were able to make great strides in increasing the revenues. I think we increased the revenues about 20 or 25%. We increased the gross margin from 38% to 44%, but it still wasn't enough to make the business viable, after 9 or 12 months of working together to try to do exactly that, to make that business turn around. So once you cross that magic line of $100,000, $200,000 in annual revenue, you've got an opportunity to sustain that business for a long time, because you've got cash coming into the business, and you've got a customer base, and you've got a product that people actually are purchasing and hopefully enjoying. You've got a lot better chance of success once you cross that threshold. I've seen, I would guess, 100 or 150 people, maybe more, maybe 200 people that I've worked with in the last 15 years who are trying to raise capital, but were never successful in raising capital to the extent that they needed to in order to get the business even off the ground and going. And by the way, I used to think that was me until I got to Silicon Valley about 7 or 8 years ago, and I realized, holy mackerel, that's systemic. Here in Silicon Valley, the odds of raising capital are probably about 1%. If you don't have, a good track record of success with the team, if you don't have, a lot of connections, it may be far less than that. It may be 1 in 1,000. The general rule of thumb is that venture capital firms see 1,000 business plans before they invest in one. When I look at companies, incubators and accelerators that I have seen, their success rate is also 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 500, even with all the talent and experience that they have associated with that. So those who want to raise capital to start the business, I think your success ratio goes way down. I think that you're far more likely to be successful with a bootstrapping mentality or a minimal capital raise mentality than you are if you start an enterprise and you need to have $1 million or $3 million or $5 million, in order to even get the thing off the ground. Yeah, Michael, does that make sense to you?
It does. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, the University of Tennessee study that I oftentimes quote, because it's the best one I've seen in all of my all of my research said that 76% of businesses that did failed because of a lack of competency on the part of the manager or the leader. They really didn't know what they were doing. They didn't have enough experience or didn't have enough advisors around to construct a great business model, to develop competencies in marketing and sales, and give the business a shot. And that's one of the reasons I really value these office hours presentations, and really do what I can to help people learn what they need to learn so they can do what they need to do in order to be successful in business. So thanks for that interaction, Michael. I really appreciate it. And for those other folks who are on the call, this is live group coaching. We are eager to hear your comments, your discussion items. I've got a few more things that I want to talk about, but generally I want to make sure that I throw it open to you and we can chat about, all kinds of things while we're on the call. So this office hours, today and for the foreseeable future are going to be a lot more informal, and it's just us having a conversation about business, your business in general, or your business in specific or business in general. Before we move on to the next question, though, I want to just offer a couple more pieces of information here. Our next office hours is going to be Monday, January the 16th. We're going to continue with live group coaching for the foreseeable future. If you can think of a presentation that you would like for me to make, or of course if you have any questions that you'd like for me to address during the office hours, send me an email, send something to paulsurvey.com. And we are continuing a special offer that we announced last month, which is our Gold Clarity Package. That's 5 90-minute sessions so that you can get clear and define your what and your why and your how about your business, getting very clear on what you want to accomplish, get very clear about why you want to do this in the first place, and then get very clear with your step-by-step plan on how you're going to get from where you are to where you want to be. This Gold Clarity Package, the 5 90-minute sessions that we have, the first one's on the Business Clarity Questionnaire. Then we do a phase growth strategy, which is a long-term, typically 18 to 24-month planning horizon. We do a business foundation profile, which is a gap analysis, which lets you see where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are relative to the plan that you've got in place for growth in your business. Then we do a tactical 90-day growth plan and finish up the 5 sessions with a first step financial plan, which is the budget associated with your next 90 to 120 days or so, well, more than that, 3 to 6 months, so that you see what kind of budget you need to have. All of that is typically priced at $1,750, but we're continuing our special offer, so that comes in right at $1,500. It comes with a guarantee that if we get through that first session and you say it's just not for me, then I'll give you 100% of your money back. I've never had anybody ask for that back, because even in the first session, you know that you're going to get significant value out of the consulting engagement. And we still have offering our free bonus for the first 5 signups. You get a free coaching session, which helps you stay focused and keep on track in your business. I normally sell those at $250 each, so you get that thrown in. So for $1,500, you get that 5 90-minute planning session, the 1 bonus follow-up coaching session, tools that you can use in your business forever, and the 100% money back guarantee. That's only $1,500. So I encourage you to think about that, and if there's anybody that you think might be able to use this system and you want to refer me, I do pay referral fees. So it kind of depends on whether or not it's just a cold lead, or somebody just picks up the phone and gives me a call and says, hey, Michael says I should hire you, or hey, Nick says I should hire you, or Andrew says I should hire you. I'm happy to share that revenue considerably with folks. So keep that in mind for yourself. Keep that in mind for other people that you know in business as well. With that, I'm going to move back into questions and answers. For those of you who are on the call, and we've got a half a dozen or so folks on the call, if you've got anything that you would like for me to address, any questions that you have about your business, by all means, type it into the chat log or raise your hand in some way, and we'll get the questions answered just as quickly as we can, or the discussion topics done. Here's another. I got a couple of more questions or topics that came in that I want to talk about today. Here's one that's really interesting for those of us in California and Colorado and Washington State and Oregon, and that is somebody says, I'm thinking about getting into the cannabis industry. Do you have any advice for me there? Well, as it turns out, I've got, one client and one prospect right now who are deeply involved in the cannabis industry. In the case of one of my clients, her name's Kat Bonsack. Her name of her company is Mary Jane Parties. You can look her up online. She had a medical marijuana dispensary in Washington State, and then they passed the laws that allowed cannabis to be recreational and kind of took the business out from underneath her. So she had to change her business, and she decided to go into cannabis and hemp-related education products and products, selling products that were related to the industry. She doesn't sell cannabis directly. She doesn't sell, any sort of psychotropic version of cannabis. But as it turns out, the hemp plant is a marvelous plant. You can make all kinds of oils. You can make food products from it. There's a company up there that has hempcrete, which is hemp, embedded in concrete to create stronger, lighter foundation blocks. There's all kinds of things that you can do with this plant, which has been, outlawed in the United States for decades and decades and decades, as it primarily turns out because it was a competitor to the alcohol industry. So there's a lot of options to do that, but there are some words of caution associated with that. Some caution that I gave her and I give other people too. If you decide to jump into the cannabis industry, it's something that will impact your relationship with some people. It is something that will impact your brand and your brand positioning in the marketplace with some people, because some people out there have a positive attitude towards the hemp plant, towards cannabis, towards recreational marijuana usage, and other people do not. So you have to be aware that when you jump in, that it will have a polarizing effect on your network. Some people will love you more, and some people will love you a lot less. But anytime that you come out with a position on some sort of controversial issue, be prepared that you're going to, the analogy I like to use is you're increasing the magnetic field, the energy field of your magnet. And some magnets draw people to them, and other magnets repel people away from them. So anytime you turn up the juice on your electromagnet and make that magnetic field that much stronger, be prepared that some people will be resistant and be repelled, and other people will be attracted to you, and they'll just love what you're doing. So that's step number one. Be prepared for the impact that's going to have on your brand and on your personal relationships. Issue number two, when it comes to the cannabis industry, has to do with financing and funding. It's still like illegal from a federal point of view for companies to do business in the cannabis industry. A tremendous amount, even though the states have legalized it, and most recently California, and I think a couple of other ones that I don't even know about with the recent elections. But there are, at least a half a dozen, if not a dozen states now that have at least licensed it for recreational use, and another 20 or so who have licensed it for medical marijuana usage. But the federal government has not. So banks that have an FDIC status have to adhere to those regulations, and they cannot and will not work with businesses that do their business related to the cannabis industry. So you have to turn to alternative platforms. And thank goodness there are alternative platforms emerging. There are cannabis banks that are emerging, and other private banks, that specialize in providing banking services to companies who are in cannabis-related industry products. And I'm working with a couple of folks who are interested in doing that as well. So I may be able to support you if you decide that you want to get into that industry. But it is interesting because there is a big difference in between the federal government regulations and rules and laws and the state government regulation rules and laws. And so the banking industry is kind of caught in the middle. They certainly want all the money because there's a lot of cannabis millionaires out there who are growing leaps and bounds with their products and their services that they provide, and a lot of crazy, great ideas that are coming on. The banks want to do business with you, but they're not allowed to do business with you because of the federal regulations. So one of the more interesting aspects of my job is the opportunity to work with companies like that. And honestly, from my perspective, I don't look at it any different than I look at somebody who's in the wine industry, or or other kinds of industries. There's an industry out there. There's an opportunity to provide value to people in the marketplace. It's legal in many ways. And if you want to start a legal business that's providing value to other people in a responsible way, then I'm all for it. So give me a call if you have any questions with regards to that, or any other topics, of course. And I encourage you to speak up and on our call today, because I do want it to be live, kind of interactive group coaching. And I've only got like one more question that came up for me that was on my list of things that I was going to talk about today, and that is a situation that I'm working with another client who is working with an investor to pursue the purchase of a business. So there's a business that they like that is for sale, and with this business for sale, the investor says, I really want to see the business go. I'd like to own the business, or a large portion of the business, but I don't know how to run the business. My client says, I know how to run the business. Why don't we partner together? You put in the money and the cash that's required, and I'll bring the expertise that's required and a little bit of cash myself into the deal. We'll be co-owners of the business, and we'll be partners in the business. And you're like 90% investor and 10% leader, and I'm like 10% investor and 90% leader, and it sounds like a match made in heaven. And those conversations went way down the road. But in the last week or so, a competitor has emerged, another potential investor who is making an offer that's sweeter than my client and his business partner are currently going to make, or currently had considered making. So big question is, what do we do? Do we sweeten our offer? What are our options here? Do we just kind of go away and say, I'm not willing to sweeten my offer, so God bless and good luck, sell the business to the competitive offer, or what do we have to do? And my response to them has been, well, it kind of depends. First of all, do you still think the deal is a really good deal, in the sense of having a sweetened offer? I mean, you don't want to get into an auction, right? You don't want to just let the price of the business be inflated to the point to where you can never make any money on it. You really, don't purchase as a matter of principle. Don't purchase a business as a matter of competitive pride that you're just not going to let this deal go. This isn't like Storage Wars, the reality TV show where sometimes people will just buy something at a ridiculously inflated price just because they want to piss off the other person who's bidding against them. You don't want to do that. Be rational about it in some way. If you can sweeten your offer to match the offer, if you can convince them that in addition to the money, you've also got a tremendous amount of expertise to bring, and they're far better off, or rather their customers and their clients who they care about, their employees who they care about, are better off if they accept your offer than if they accept the competitor's offer. You might not even have to match the offer. You might just be able to come close to the offer if they're convinced that you're bringing value to them, their employees, and their customers in ways that the other investor may not be able to bring. So consider sweetening the offer, but you may not have to match the other offer entirely. And I also suggested to my colleague / business partner here is that you may have a totally different out-of-the-box thinking that says that go ahead and let the other investor purchase the business, and then go to them and say, I was working with this other investor and now I want to work with you because we were going to bring significant expertise that was going to allow the business to double, maybe even triple in revenues and profits over the next couple of years. We have a growth strategy in place. We have the expertise in place to execute that growth strategy. Why don't you and I partner together? Because it didn't work out for me to partner with the other investor. So they are considering that as an option. And that really depends on how closely tied they were to the first investor, and whether or not they're willing to kind of switch horses in the middle of the stream. But I reminded them that they don't have a non-compete. There's no non-circumvent agreement in place in between them and the other investor at all. That right now it's just kind of all open kimono, and we're all talking about that. So we're all good people here. So, maybe we can work with the new investor, or maybe the current investor can work with the new investor, and we can all work together in some way. I don't think it has to be an us or them mentality. I think it can be a collaborative approach, and we may do this ourselves. We may kind of all work together to make this thing work. And I actually think in this particular case, having seen a lot of the financial projections and been involved in that process for the last several weeks, like, a month or more, 6 weeks, that I think that could actually work. So hopefully, they'll be able to work out something, and they'll be able to purchase that business okay. That brings me to the end of the topics that I had in mind and the things that I wanted to talk about today. For those of you who might have missed the first part of the call today, we are restructuring office hours here in 2017. And the restructuring is not as many formal presentations and a lot more live group coaching. Just because of the time that it takes me to create those presentations, and the fact that I've got 101 different presentations available on in the tribal portal. So I encourage you to take a look at those presentations a lot. I've got another little thing coming in here today. Yeah, so Michael, who spoke up earlier, and I just took him off mute, said, I did share a lot of valuable information. Will I consider recording it and posting it? And the answer is absolutely, Michael. Thank you for that encouragement. I'm happy to do that. It only takes me about 35 or 40 minutes at the end to at sometime tonight to convert the recording and post it. It gets a lot easier when it's live group coaching than it is some other formal presentation. So thank you for that encouragement, and we will be doing that, and we will give you the opportunity to share that with other people too. So thank you very much.
People that would benefit from just hearing this overture, the strength. You make these little statements, and there's a lot of wisdom behind them, and I think it's important to share those.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to put you back on mute here for a second, so you don't have to worry about background noise and that kind of thing. I did, when I did the last office hours one that I did, which was in early December, I did invite people to be a member of my inner circle. I am looking for people who can advise me on products and services that I might provide, so I can get the feedback from the marketplace, before I go and invest a tremendous amount of money and time in a new direction of sorts. So Michael, I'd really appreciate it if you would consider being a part of that inner circle, and we'll make it right for you in some way. I didn't have very many people respond to that offer. In fact, I only had one other person respond to that offer, and I was hoping that, Michael, that you might consider being a part of that inner circle too. So I invite you to do that, and I'd be eager to talk to you about that. And for the rest of you on the call, if you find these live group coaching calls beneficial to you, I really appreciate you tuning back in and coming back week after week. You're welcome to share this with anybody out there. People are certainly welcome to show up and ask their questions, or send them to me via email, or just give me a phone call, and we'll be talking about it in future office hours live group coaching sessions. And if if there's some sort of presentation that I have done before that you'd like to see me repeat, or another presentation that you'd like to see me work on, please give me a shout out as well. Right now, I am studying, by the way, so you'll know, I'm studying mindfulness. Those of you who know me, and especially those who've known me for a while, understand that my conversations these days are starting to lean more and more towards helping people remember, discover, remember, embrace, and live the greatness that we all have within, every single day. I call it being in my awesome place, where I just feel awesome about life and I feel awesome about everything that's going on, regardless of what's going on. I just, am so excited and amazed at this incredible human experience that we all share, that I just look out at the world and say, isn't this incredibly awesome every second of every day? So I am exploring, moving more and more into being an inspirational speaker and a mindfulness coach. And I am eager to get feedback from the marketplace to understand how I might be able to do that, over time, as I do that. So I think that, and Canada, thank you for your great comment too. Take advantage of it the next time. She says, man, I wish I'd have known that I'd had an opportunity to ask a lot more questions. I'll do that. So for each and every one of you on the call, think about that. Anything that you want me to talk about, if I've got any perspective to share, any knowledge, any experience, any insights, sometimes I just think of things on the fly. We all do that, by the way. That's one of the most interesting things about life is that intuition and guidance comes to almost everybody, that God doesn't give all the good ideas to just one person. He gives some of them to me and some of them to you and some of them to people we've never met. And the way we get those good ideas is by listening to other people and being open to that, encouraging them to share their ideas and their perspectives. So I am eager to share with you what I've learned over the years, and eager for you to share with each other what is coming up for you and what advice that you might have and what ideas that you might have as well. With that, I don't know that I'm not seeing any other questions coming into the chat box, and I don't know that I've got a lot else to talk about today. I will talk about one other thing, just one other thing, and this will be kind of my closing remark in case if I don't see any other questions come in. I'm working with an investor or working with a client who has an opportunity to position themselves for a significant loan in their business. And we're doing this in a couple of different ways. We are showing what the business would have been like had we had that loan 12 months ago. Because had we had that loan 12 months ago, we would have used it to purchase some things that now we are renting or leasing. So they would have ended up being a capital expense, which does not impact the EBITDA, the earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, which is normally the operating income of a company. We would have purchased the assets so that the lease payments and the rental payments would not detract from the net income, which increases the value of the company, because the value of a company is almost always some multiple times the operating income times the EBITDA, and we're restating all of that for the prospective lender. And the reason I bring that up is not because of the cleverness of restating of what life would have been with, but because of the process that we are using. I've done a lot of work on the financials. I've talked to the lender a little bit. I'm working with the principals of the company, and I'm working with the bookkeepers, I'm working with the principals, and we're going to make sure that when we go back to the potential lender and share with them, here's the financial information and what it could have been in 2016 and what we anticipate it being in 2017 with your guidance, that we're all on the same page. So the key message here is collaborate. Don't try to be a hero and just answer questions, really, really important questions like that. And by the way, this one has millions of dollars at stake. You just don't trust yourself. I don't trust myself. I don't want to be the person who comes up with the response. I want to be the person who came up with the response that we vetted and collaborated and discussed amongst other people at the company, so that you put forth your very best shot and that everybody's on the same page. And when the lender asks a question about something, we all know exactly what the answer is and what the answer should be, so that we're presenting a very consistent approach to our potential investor and making sure that we're consistent. That's really, really important. There's two good reasons for you to collaborate with other people. And the number one reason is because they're going to have ideas that you're not going to have. And the second reason is it's the only opportunity for you to make sure that everybody's on the same page. If you want people to support the growth plan that you're putting in place, then invite them to help create that plan in the first place, because then you'll have their ideas, and then you'll have your buy-in, then the team will be aligned, and then you'll be able to move forward with much greater efficiency, productivity, and effectiveness when it comes to executing that plan. And with that, hang on, I got one more little thing here that's coming up. Thank you for that. By the way, Michael's asking another question here. But that's really, really important. The two different reasons to collaborate, to get everybody's great ideas and to make sure we're all on the same page. So give me just a second here as I read through this. Actually, Michael, I love having you on the call today. I'm going to take you off of mute and invite you to ask this question that you just typed into the chat log again.
Good. Let me scroll down to it here. Okay, matching skill set, mindset, and the experience of the owner with the complexity of a business. You've shown graphs as business get more complex, they need more skill set, more experience.
Yeah.
That they want to grow. What is your success rate or your first impression of determining of whether the business will be a success? This provides for gaps because we know in business or in individuals, they can't be everything all the time, so there's there's strengths, they've got a product, they're able to move it forward, so there's some attributes, but that you wonder if there's a little bit of imbalance. And we know that engineers typically they get a little too analytical, and so sometimes their success rate isn't quite as high as maybe an individual that doesn't have any formal training and is more of an entrepreneur
or more of a salesman. Yeah, I answered that question a lot in my book, the five, or in the approach of the 5 choices of winning CEOs, and then in the business survival bootcamp. But I love the fact that you brought it up, and I'll mention it again. The reason I wrote the book, The Foundation Factor, was because of the observation that I had that most people who go into business are ill prepared to go into business because they don't have strength in all of the areas that are necessary in which to build a business. That was, by the way, the reason I learned that was when I started my first business in 1980. From 1980 to 1985, I was a computer programmer, an engineer. I was, a decent, project manager and a charming fellow, not nearly as charming as I am today, but I was, I could get along with people pretty good. But I totally underestimated the fact that businesses, you have to be competent in sales and marketing in addition to being competent in delivering your products and services. I just totally missed that. Actually, it was a little worse than that. I had been told by other people that I was a good salesperson, and I believed them. But it turns out I wasn't. I hadn't had any formal sales training at that point in time. I really didn't even know the difference between marketing and sales. I didn't understand lead generation strategies, unique selling propositions. I thought that if I just showed up, offering a really good product, that people would beat a path to my door, and they certainly did not. I struggled for several years because of a weakness in marketing and sales, and that's how I learned how people who can be really, really brilliant at some things can really not be brilliant at other things, and that's why I did that. So I think almost everybody, unless you're a serial entrepreneur and you've done it 2 or 3 or 4 times successfully, you're generally speaking ill prepared to be in business for yourself. And it takes an advisor like myself, somebody who's been around the block a long time and understands the different departmental functions of a business and what's really required at the business to help you do that classic gap analysis. To jump on my horse just a little bit more here, because I love the opportunity to do that. T. Harv Eker has one of his very famous sayings in the Peak Potentials movement that says that how we do one thing is how we do everything. And I've heard him say that before, and I've seen people go, oh yeah, that's absolutely true. And nothing is further from the truth from my perspective. From the perspective of a management consultant who's used to doing gap analysis, the reason that companies struggle and fail is because of the exact opposite being true, that they may be excellent in one area, but they're not excellent in every area. And it's that belief that because I am so good at what I do, that everything else is inconsequential, or that I can really, really quickly learn how to sell. I mean, it's like, who knows how to sell, right? I'm an engineer. I'm a software engineer. I'm a product engineer. I've got an IQ of 130 or 40 or 150. How hard can that selling stuff be? Well, as it turns out, it can be really freaking hard. I mean, it can be really hard to adjust your mindset to where you're thinking about the value that you're bringing to other people instead of thinking about the features and benefits that you're putting into your product. That's a huge mindset shift, and that transformation has to happen at a deep, deep subconscious level, and it can take years and years and years. In my case, about 20 years. So hopefully it's going to be a lot quicker with you, because you've got people on your team who can help you through that challenge, but it does take it does take a challenge to do that. So I think the question started out with something like, are there gaps in the business? And every business owner is going to have gaps. Every entrepreneur would be well served with the attitude that says, I'm going to have to learn a lot to make this business successful. I'm going to have to get people on my team who know things and who have experiences that I don't have in order for this business to be successful. And yes, I do see some people that jump right into a business and have no concept that some businesses are far more complex than other business. Literally, I've had people say, I want to go into business for myself, and I don't know whether or not I want to be a business coach or whether I want to bring my own consumer product to market. And bringing a consumer product to market is like 10 times more difficult than being a coach. I mean, there are all kinds of legal issues and investment issues. You can spend $250,000, $500,000 or more developing a product and attempting to bring it to market before you even figure out whether or not the market wants it. But you can be a coach for an investment as a little of like $1,000 or so. I mean, it is not even close about the complexity of the business. And yet I hear some consultants and some cheerleaders at chambers of commerce and other places say, just pick one, just go for it. You're going to be successful no matter what you choose to do. Totally, I think, ignorant of the differences in the complexity and the challenges between those two types of businesses. So, the first choice of the 5 choices of winning CEOs, choice number 1 is to understand the business. Understand what a good business model looks like, understand how long it takes to start a business in this industry, understand that there's a lot of different complexities in between the businesses, far more difficult to bring a consumer product to market than it is to start even a restaurant, or especially selling roses by the street corner or being a coach. And here's hoping that you understand the complexity in your business, that you've studied your industry enough and you've talked to enough people to know how to create a really great business model for yourself, because it's oftentimes not obvious at all about how companies make money and how much margins they really need and what's an appropriate ratio for staff and marketing expenses within the company, etc. Make sure you get somebody on your team who has that domain experience, who has experience in that industry, so that they can help you figure out your initial business models and how to make that grow. So I want to thank you again for your kind attendance for today. I want to especially thank Michael for for your participation and interaction. I want to encourage everybody who's on the call today and who's listening to this recording later on to come with your ideas and come with your discussion topics, and I'll do everything I can to support you and help you be more successful in your business. Remember the special offer that we have in place. I'm not sure how much longer we'll have it in place, but I'm eager to I'm eager to continue that offer for the foreseeable future. Reach out to me, give me a call, go to schedulepaul.com, schedule an appointment, give me a call at the number that's on your screen, 415-997-8001. And until we meet again, until we talk again, this is Paul Hoyt wishing you a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.